差唔多啦，我哋 the next section is coming up soon. So please be seated. Welcome to Social Enterprise Summit. This is the 3 p.m. session. We'll be starting soon. I'm your host, Erwin. We'll share a little bit about how to use storytelling to actually drive our course in social impact and things and so on. We are very glad that we have a speaker coming in from Europe and also from Hong Kong and representing Singapore also. So please have a seat, and then maybe we start in a minute or two. Thank you. If you need translation, you understand we have a real-time translation, so get your 廣東話 machine outside if you need to, or other language if necessary. Yeah? Okay, I think we can start. Amy, nice meeting you here.
Good afternoon.
And then Louise is here. Okay, so can we have Louise on the screen? Okay, good. So welcome everybody. This is the 3 p.m. section of the Social Enterprise Summit, day 1. Very interesting session we all have today, and thank you very much for staying till now. And then I am sure we have some very interesting session coming on. Today our track will be focusing a little bit more on how data and how to use story to actually drive the social innovation and social enterprise process. So I'm very glad today that we have 2 speakers joining us. Louise is is now in Europe, in UK. So please say hi, Louise. Let's try the mic. Is your mic okay? Can you try?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you okay. You can hear us?
I can hear you. I'm so sad not to be with you.
Good. So nice to have her. Let's give her a good hand.
Hi, Louise.
Yes. And she'll have a slide or two talk about her background. So we'll talk a little about that. And then we have Amy here. Amy is from Hong Kong, representing DBS.
Hello, everybody. Happy to be here.
Yes. So that's why we have a European person here, and then also a Hong Kong person that working with the Asian banks and Asian social enterprise scape. I'll be representing more as a moderator and also from Hong Kong. So let's talk a little bit about the background, and then they would share a little bit about their territory and how they are working on it on the particular topic that we're working on. So let me share. Let me put things in perspective. What we are trying to do in this particular section, we have 2 sections. This is the A section. Tomorrow we have a B section. This A section will be focusing more on how we're actually thinking about, and as SES, we're thinking about building a knowledge hub so that beyond every year we have this very good week that we can share a lot of things. We would like to share more of the success stories, talk about different gaps and different things all around the world, all around the year. So we are able to actually bring international news on social innovation and social enterprise, and also bring things related to different districts, but not just in 1 week. Now we are doing a lot of district things already that we go out and actually engage the city. But we are also looking into building a knowledge hub. That's at least that's what we're calling it now, online platform and an offline platform, so that we are able to actually share some of the cases, some of the ideas and things and so on. Today, we will talk a little bit more about the right side of the brain. So how do you tell a story? How do you, just today, up to now, we have heard so many different good cases that we have been doing. But is there a good way that we can actually use those stories to actually tell the story even better and then promote some of the work so that people can learn from it, best practice? And also if there are pitfalls and there are failures and things that we can learn from, we can definitely learn from those. So that's also a very good thing. So we can actually work on having a knowledge hub type thing that we actually drive. So we will actually start with Louise, and then she have been working on this particular angle with her entity for the last actually quite a few years. and then she'll be sharing, and she has background with Hong Kong also, so she'll know about us. So I'll pass it to you, and then maybe you share a little bit about the angle from Europe, and then thanks for joining us. Louise, pass to you.
Thank you, Erwin. As I said, I have been to the summit before, and I'm really sad not to be there in person. Not only because it is 7 a.m. in the UK, completely dark outside.
Thanks for joining us so early.
Yes, well, very important discussion. So I wanted to be here. And also the times changed over the weekend. So I just jumped back an hour. Apologies, I have a bit of a cough. And so if I cough, I will just put myself on mute for a moment. But let me just explain to you who Six is. As Erwin said, I am calling in from London. We are a global organization based here in London, but with team members in Singapore and Canada, and an executive board that stretches from San Francisco to Adelaide. So whilst we are kind of based in London, we have this global remit, and we're focused on accelerating learning exchange across borders and sectors. We help people and organizations respond more quickly to and really prepare more effectively for the massive challenges that the world is facing. And it's like, kind of put simply, we bring diverse partners together to provide solutions to the biggest serious social challenges. And these challenges are global, they're complex in nature, and they need to be addressed urgently. We all know that. So solving them requires a kind of social innovation that we facilitate. So we're a social innovation organization at heart. And we're experts in cultural translation, leveraging our kind of industry-defined network that spans borders and sectors. So in our network, we have people from cities, governments, businesses, foundations, academia, civil society, who are all interested in working on some of the biggest challenges of our time. And as Erwin alluded to, storytelling, of course, has to be at the heart of everything we do. When we're working with challenges that are so big and complex, and people coming from such different backgrounds, speaking multiple languages, not just in terms of the country they come from, but the sector they're in. People in different sectors speak very differently, and often have challenges communicating. The only way we think you can really do that effective communication is through storytelling and through providing really creative ways to connect people. So let me share my screen and give you a couple of examples of the kind of storytelling that we do. Of course, the pandemic has meant that we have had to accelerate our storytelling work and think differently about it, particularly because everyone arrived, or many people have been locked in their houses for a very long time and can't even meet in person. But it was really part of what we did before. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you can all see it. We love a bit of technology. It's 7 a.m. on a
working. We can see it.
Working. You can see it. Fantastic. Let's get it in present mode.
That's a major step. Working.
Here we are.
Yay.
Excellent. Something already. Excellent.
Now we can see one monitor is you, the other monitor is it's a global map.
Oh goodness me! Well, the presentation will be much more invigorating, I promise. So as I said, yeah, this is Six, and the line, if you want to remember anything about us as an organization, is we believe in the power of exchange for good. We are a social innovation exchange at our heart. So let me share a first example with you. This is something we call the Unusual Suspects Festival. We started it very much as a meeting. We did the first one in London, and as it says on the website here, this is a screenshot of a website which I invite you all to go and have a look at. theunusualsuspectsfestival.com. It's about bringing together unlikely connections for social change. What we do is we interweave people, places, and stories. So we started this project as a 3-day festival, started in London. We then moved it to Scotland, to Northern Ireland, focused around the UK, and it subsequently happened in Seoul as well a couple of times. And the principle is exactly as it says on the can, unlikely connections. So what we do is we bring together different people who are doing amazing social change work, but don't necessarily identify with the language of social innovation. And we host a series of events, all organized by different people who all have very different audiences. This is another challenge I think we have. We organize these events and we invite exactly the same people every year. And we have pretty much the same conversation every year. And so our idea was not only to get hosts to work together, to organize events together, who wouldn't usually work together. We did a lot of matching to do that, but also they bring different audiences. And also by organizing events in similar places, the audiences might stay for another event and hear about something that they wouldn't usually have heard about. So we tried to create these unlikely connections all over the few days. And then what we did is we realized, a bit like you're doing here, the challenge is that you only meet at that moment. How do you create that knowledge hub in between? But how do you not create just another website? So what we did is we created a storytelling website. And many of the people who participated in the events in London, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Seoul, we worked with, and I think this is extremely important, a beautiful videographer to make short video stories of them talking about their work. And we organized it across 6 different themes. As you see here, we use poetry as a way to bring people in and touch people's brain in a different way, rather than just saying, here are lots of videos of case studies. And if you go on the website and work through these stories, they're 2-minute video clips. They're extremely easy to understand. They're organized in a way that makes sense for our brains in terms of the innovation process and what's happening at the beginning, or creativity later on down the world. And it just provides a really accessible way. And there are dozens and dozens of videos on here which try and tell the stories and keep alive the work of the Unusual Suspects Festival between festivals. Again, this is not enough on its own. So what we do as an organization focused on exchange is we use this platform. We use these videos in our events that are not related to the Unusual Suspects Festival, but in other things, just to keep that storytelling alive, because these stories are amazing. Now, let me move on to my second example that I'm going to share with you. And this is something called the Wayfinder. This is something we did last year. It was our annual conference. We hosted one in London in 2017 and again in Istanbul in 2019. And we were due to host another one in Canada when the world changed dramatically. And we were bound to our homes. Now, this was not just a challenge for SIX, this was a challenge for all organizations. And what most organizations did was to transfer exactly their conference format into being online. And I think that was fine, but it got very tiring for a lot of people. And the world became even more complex, even more connected, yet sadly, in many ways, even more divided. People were tired of being on Zoom. People were tired of not having any kind of human connection, of that right side of your brain, as you said, working effectively. And given storytelling, humans, people, exchange is all in our DNA, we knew we needed to do something differently. So we took our Wayfinder And we decided not to do it over 2 days, but we spread it over 7 months or 8 months. We used the metaphor of music as a way to connect people. And we embarked on the idea of creating a metaphorical symphony. That was our idea in our head, across 4 different movements. So put your mind into thinking about a piece of music that has a piece of classical music, perhaps, that has 4 different movements. If I was feeling more creative at 7 a.m. on a Thursday morning, I would play some of this for you, but I invite you to go and listen on the website as well.
So it's online, right? If necessary, we can go and see it. It sounds so interesting.
It's all online. It's all online. The website of this is sixwayfinder.com. The first movement for us was about tuning. Again, we didn't want to tell the world what they needed. We wanted to listen to what people were telling us they needed more of. Topics, things that they were struggling with. So the first movement was tuning. We called it tuning because we were tuning in. We were listening to what people were telling us they were struggling with. The next movement was ensembling. By that, we meant we brought people together. So if we heard that someone in Hong Kong was struggling with thinking about their city and their space and mental health or well-being, and we also had someone in Poland talking about that, what we did is we brought them together for a discussion around that. So it was all about bringing people together globally. We didn't know what we were going to do next. This was true innovation, I must admit. We were testing as we were going and waiting to hear from people what we think they needed. We then started to think about how do you create action. By now, people are pretty tired. In Europe, at least, we'd just gone into even more lockdowns. And so we got people starting to talk on their own. We made connections and we let them talk on their own. And in the end, we ended up making a piece of music. And let me just explain really briefly how we did that. We knew we wanted to create something at the end. So most conferences, what we do is, we do our conference, then we create our report afterwards. And everyone who came to the conference looks at the report and then they put it on the floor or on a pile on their desk and they never look at it again. And so what we did is we knew we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to add to the piles of report that exist already. So we employed 6 what we call artist composers in residence, a jazz singer, a filmmaker, a harpist, an artist, someone that does something very experimental that I couldn't describe. And they came from Hong Kong, from Singapore, from Canada, from Greece, from Poland, from the UK. They all applied for this position. It was a very strange position to apply for. We didn't really have a job description. We just said we need someone to communicate with our conference in a new way. And what they did is they actually made a piece of music, kind of amazingly, a 30-minute piece of music, which basically describes, it's like a conference report, but in musical form, and describes the kind of feelings that people went through. And I just think this quote is really summed up. So at the end of the event, what we did is we invited people to come to the kind of final event. And all we did is we played a piece of music for them. We asked them to turn off their cameras and listen to something. This is obviously quite unusual for people to do. And what they did, what someone said afterwards, and this was someone who actually works in a bank, actually a consulting firm connected to a bank. And they wrote to us afterwards and they said, I feel like we talk about the need to work across disciplines and how much we benefit from greater exchange of ideas, ways of working and concepts. Your symphony for me was the best example that is possible and how much can come out of it. Such a rich artifact, and I greatly enjoyed listening to it. And I think this is just a good example of the effect of just
We have some technical issue. Is it over? We cannot hear you. Can you speak a little bit?
Hello?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Can you hear me? Did you lose my final quote?
We see the slide, the symphony thing, and I think we just lost you the last sentence.
Okay, well that was me ending, but I guess my final kind of sentence to say is, you know, we are not a musical organization. We will not create music every time we do events in future. We will continue to experiment, and we will continue to try and find ways to connect people, to create exchange, to creatively build cumulative knowledge and connections in different ways. Because I think all we proved was try things differently, try and appeal to a different side of the brain in a really different way. Don't repeat something that already exists already, and find a way to connect humans. And that's all we've been trying to do for a long time.
Truly amazing. Let's give her a good hand. Truly amazing. I think this is so interesting where we are. I was thinking about, we kind of appeal to the right brain a little bit. Seems like what you guys are doing are really interesting in the sense of you are touching the sense. And I think obviously tomorrow we'll come back to science, right? Come back tomorrow for that. But today it's more like it's how you actually use music, use symphony, use the pace to actually tell the story. And the difficulty actually, I think, listening through this morning, quite a few section, we talk a lot about changes, and the changes actually require process, and the process need to connect different parties together. And I think what you just said, it's actually you try to engage different stakeholders using all kinds of different ways. And you also mentioned that they all speak different languages, not just in Europe, everybody speaks a different language, right? But it's more like the engineers are speaking the different language to the politicians saying the different language to the AI bankers. But they need to work together. They really need to work together to really bring to social impact. And social impact itself means different things to different people. And that's why trying some new way is actually so powerful. I've been to the Istanbul conference, the Wayfinder, and it's really amazing. We were physically in one place, but Istanbul itself is such a amazing place. Now it's so difficult to go now. So, but still, again, it's all the different things together. It actually gives you new perspective, and appealing to the right brain is actually very, very important. And it helps us to actually sometimes calm down. Sometimes we feel something more urgent, and then we can work from. So good storyteller is actually very, very powerful. Okay, so let's come back to Asia. And then I'll pass to Amy to share a little bit about your projects and then some of the things you have done here and your company have done in Asia and so on. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you,
Erwin.
Yes.
Thank you, Erwin, for having me. Thank you, Rebecca, for having me. It's my honor to be here. And very interesting sharing, Louise. You know, I'm very creative, using poetry, using music, you know, to tell a story. So I'm from DBS, and I'm not a banker. I've never worked in the financial institution before I joined DBS 1.5 years ago. And what interests me was I know that DBS, you know, is the leading Asia-based bank, right? So, but that was not the reason why I wanted to join DBS. As I learned that DBS is a purpose-driven organization, and sustainability is high on this agenda, and that got me interested. Okay. And then I learned that, okay, so how does DBS drive sustainability, right? So we have 3 pillars, one is responsible banking. So that's all the green loans and all that stuff that I don't know. No, I'm not an expert. And then, it's also about, responsible business practices. So, how we have our operations, how we lower our carbon emission and all that. I'm not an operation person either, right? And then the 3rd pillar is about creating impact beyond banking, right? Creating social social impact. And that got me interested because, my career all along, I've been in the commercial role, I've been driving revenue and that. But then, in my career now, I feel that, I have a calling to do something different, right? And then I learned that actually, DBS for this job, not only do I get to, drive, creating the social impact, and also I get to work very closely, with DBS Foundation, which actually the mission is to champion social entrepreneurship. To be honest, before this job, I didn't really, know much about, social enterprise. I know that, it's a force for good. I know that, it's doing social good, but what exactly, do social enterprise drive, right? I didn't know that, but then I was triggered. I wanted to learn more, and therefore, I took on this job, right? So for DBS Foundation, actually, we have a grant program every year. We give out grant to social enterprise. But this is not what we do, right? So we don't want to just give out a grant, and then you go, you guys go run it, right? I think the philosophy that DBS is we try to support our social enterprises in different ways, right? Grant is one way, and then the other way is we want to advocate them, right? Help them to raise awareness, create platform for the social enterprises, to get together. So that's the advocate part. And then the other part is the nurturing part, right? So we know that, social enterprises, they need, support from all fronts. So, we'll get, maybe, leadership training, and we'll get, we have a lot of resources and expertise, in our bank, and we'll try to pull the resources together, to actually, help them to prosper, help them, to scale their business, right? And then the third part is integrating the social enterprises into our business, right? And from a procurement point of view, we try to procure as much as possible from social enterprises, but then also, so we have banking business, right? We have, retail banking. For example, we work with our credit card team, right? So we want to promote sustainable consumption. So what my team does is, hook up, social enterprises with our credit card team, be part of their program so that, through the resources from our credit card team, we can promote local social enterprises. We put together special offers, to help drive, business for our special social enterprises, and help, to educate the public about, supporting social enterprise, right? So that's how we do it. And as you see through this process, you actually get to work with our partners very closely, right? And we understand their social mission. We understand the story behind. And what we find out is actually when we get to know our partners better, there are actually a lot of very inspiring stories behind these, social enterprises, how they came up with the idea, when they set up their businesses, what were the challenges, what are their successes, and, some of their failures, right? So we get to learn about them, and we find these stories very fascinating, right? So I think in 2016, right? So regionally, we come up with an initiative. We feel that, wow, all these stories are very inspiring. We want to tell these stories to inspire more people. So the team came up with this idea to put together a mini series, to tell these social enterprises stories. And we call it the Spark series. So we started in 2016. And what we do is, like as a region, we have 6 countries working together, and we get together, we share the social enterprises story, and we pick and choose, the ones that we feel extra inspiring to help pull together these mini series, right? And then, we are very fortunate to be able to engage one of the best film director, commercial director in Hong Kong, David Choi. So he's a very, very good storyteller, right? And then he helps us, to pull these stories together. And so far, we are already in season 2, and we have produced 18 episodes already, okay? So here I want to share a video, so a trailer video, so to let everybody, get a sense of, what this series is about.
I was hoping we could transform the business. I don't think we should be making plastic anymore.
What are you thinking, Justin?
What do you mean?
Back. We want to use a bar of soap to try to change the way that people think about waste. Do you know how much coffee waste is produced in the world every year? It's time we make a change.
I can.
See, we're a business, not a charity.
Let's do it again. We're ready to move on this, if you are.
This is more than just a bar of soap. We're trying to start a movement.
Stop dreaming up impractical things, Justin. It's time to grow up.
Because it is our collective future we're talking about here.
Yeah, so thank you. So you get a sense, right? So this story is actually based on a Hong Kong social enterprise,
Yes.
Eco Greenergy. I'm sure some of you heard of
I
it,
heard
right?
it, yeah.
Using a bar of soap to try to start a movement about upcycling.
I also see quite a few friends in there.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the cinematographer that actually created this whole series thing?
Yes,
Wow.
yes. So this is a trailer, right? But then, I myself, watch the episode. It's actually very touching. I think this is what the kind of storytelling that we want to create, the power of story is to touch people's heart, right? It's to inspire people and to get people, to think about, okay, so what can I do, right? So, so very interesting. And we love this idea, and we're, going to carry on season 3, coming, and to tell more, social enterprises stories to inspire more people. Okay, and then another thing is last year the pandemic hit, right? So and then we think about like we are a bank, right? So during a pandemic, we have to really step up and do one more step or 2 more steps, right? So we want to support, our business. We want to support the community. We want to take care of our people better, right? So our CEO, actually, tell our people, hey, during the pandemic, during difficult time, it is even more important, for us to be more purpose-driven, right? To really think about, the larger community. So there are actually a lot of stories in our bank that we feel that is very purpose-driven, and we want to tell those stories too. So we create a campaign called, Portraits of Purpose. Then, this is not just a campaign. I mean, it's going to go on. And we feel that, okay, so if there are a lot of stories, in our bank that is purpose-driven, there are also a lot of stories, from our social enterprises friends, that are very purpose-driven also. So we leverage on this, portrait of purpose kind of idea, and we pick and choose some of our local, social enterprise friends that we feel that they're also very purpose-driven, and we want to tell their story also. So we create a series of video called SE Heroes, their portraits of purpose kind of story. So I want to, show you a video to give you a taste of it. You might recognize, as some of the friends being showcased in the video here, because they're all from Hong Kong.
喺個疫情衝擊最大嘅困難就係呢個社交距離，大家咧又要係喺自己嘅地方，又唔可以聚埋一齊，但要做集體一件事去對抗呢個挑戰。我哋就揾咗好多喺屋企湊緊小朋友嘅媽媽啦，年輕媽媽，咁佢哋咧就有架衣車可以喺屋企度生產，就好似翻返去以前咁樣，可以大家喺屋企製作佢哋嘅布口籌。
喺疫情底下，我諗喺即係全香港人，我哋都面對住好多嘅限制，同萬事好相似嘅。其實我哋可能有一啲嘅限制，但係同一時間咧，亦都係一個好好嘅機會，可以放大我哋其他身體嘅感官，去重新認識呢個世界。
我覺得喺每一個困難點，其實我哋身邊都會有好多唔同天使會去幫助我哋嘅。譬如我哋今次就有 DBS 去幫助到我哋去渡過呢個難關啦。咁而家長你哋都係一樣，我哋會陪你哋一齊去行呢條路，去睇住小朋友去成長。
我哋應該都繼續利用我哋所有嘅時間去想傾偈人都保持呢個交流，令到大家知道我哋其實係走埋喺一齊嘅。
希望我哋發揮咧每個人嘅創意同埋想像力啦，一齊去轉危為機，一齊捱過呢一個疫情。而喺疫情過後咧，大家都唔好忘記我哋身邊呢一群有需要嘅人士。
只要有心，將大家嘅力量集合埋一齊，你我都可以成為 everyday hero。
Different social enterprises, different social missions, but all very inspiring, right? So this is, the kind of storytelling that we want to do again, is to touch people's heart. And then actually there's a story behind this, right? So we created this series in 2020, right? So we engaged an agency and,
when everybody's locked down, you suddenly go and actually do something like this.
Yes, we actually postponed it. And then we created this, at the end of, when the pandemic situation was slightly better. It was still challenging, right?
Of
so
course.
we need to limit the number of crew, being there, but then we still wanted, to pull this together. So we work very closely with the agency partner, to craft the story and to film it, right? And then guess what? The agency got very, very inspired as well. And then those people, they were actually thinking about creating a new social media platform, right? In 2021, they wanted to, launch it. And they're thinking about how to launch a social media platform. And they were very inspired, by our social enterprises, especially Sight Feeling, those promoting, supporting blind photography, right? And then they came up with this idea, hey, why not we tell the story through photographs, and we engage Sight Feeling, those blind photographers, to help us take photos, to tell stories, to tell these portraits of purpose, right? And then they came to us and we thought, what a brilliant idea. We have been making videos, right? So, we thought that, photographs are a very good different medium to help tell that story. So again, the conversation spark is like, yes, we are in. So we put together, we fully supported, the photo exhibition. And then, we have a lot of stories. So we tell these stories to the blind photographers as an inspiration and let them go take pictures. And then we engage, local celebrities in Hong Kong to help raise the awareness. And we put together a moment of purpose photo exhibition in a shopping mall in Hong Kong, again, raising awareness and all that. And that was just, an awesome experience. We never really planned this, when we did the video. It's just that because the stories are just so inspiring that they inspired, our partner, and they wanted to do this. And so, so that, that's how lead to us, today is we're still thinking this happened this year, right? So next year, what can we do? What other mediums can we use? I already got some inspiration, from Louise. Is it music? Is it poetry, right? So what other things that we can do? So I feel that, I'm very happy, that I have this opportunity to share this with you and to learn, from all of you here, to learn about your story. And again, I said I'm not a banker, but I'm from marketing and communication. I thought, my experience in being a storyteller can help, make a little difference in this.
Thank you very much, Amy. Let's give her a good hand. It's a lot of very difficult job to actually do during a very tough time. But in a way, you fight the virus using a viral videos. Yes. So that's pretty good. So, and then I really think that these examples are very, very interesting because we are using, we are appealing to senses, appealing to people that actually you are touched. And just seeing those few minutes, actually there are touches. There are small scenes and small things, obviously done very professionally. So first thing I would say, how do we promote our stuff when we do our social innovation and things and so on? We just find somebody who know Photoshop and do something. But now see, we have all good people really driving it. maybe some of our funders should actually look into making sure that we should fund these also. Tomorrow we have a funder coming in, so we can talk about that. And but definitely, I think having professional PR people, marketing people, photographers, copywriters, musicians, and really drive it is it's actually so important. And normally we don't think about this. Normally we focus on doing things. So go to the front line and actually doing some. I was a chairman for a very grassroots NGO for a long time, and all I need ask, can you take some pictures and then at least give me a deck so that I can at least get you some money. But they said no, we only focus on doing the poor thing. So we only focus on doing that. So I fully understand that obviously their focus is there, but being able to tell the story, you bring in more resource, bring in more people touched. Resource can be money, resource can be time, resource can be a lot of heart. A resource can be understanding online. Resource can be a lot of people liking you, that actually helps. I like to say when we're promoting social innovation in primary school, I actually say 成功乃成功之母. When you find the success thing, really go and actually tell more about it, because in the social media world, if you're able to actually share a good story, that can really drive and so on. So let's get a little bit technical for both of you. Since you guys have been able to actually pull good resource to really drive the things and so on, and then you'll share why you actually do it. But when you start working on it, let's say from Louise' angle, you guys are obviously doing conference, doing things and so on. So how do you put this into your budget? Let's be practical. And then how do you actually drive, or do you actually get more budget because you're doing this? I don't know. Just how do you actually pull these together? And I understand some might be coming in for volunteering, but also some might be paid. So how does that work?
Yeah, it's such an important question. And I think I agree, it's one of the biggest challenges of social innovation, NGO sectors, social enterprises, that we don't invest for many reasons in the kind of professional communications around this stuff, because it devalues the work and people don't understand what we're doing, and we don't do it enough. We don't have it in our budget enough, but when we do and we work with professionals who know how to tell those stories, we can see the difference. We as I said, we work in multiple sectors, so just 2 tiny projects that we do, and a lot of policy influencing, a lot of advocacy work as well. And some of the work that we also do is working with global foundations to help influence them on the way they invest their funding. In both a kind of systemic way, how do you take more risks? How do you think about systems change? But also in a very practical way. And one of the things that we always advocate for is this kind of investment in storytelling and making sure that when you're supporting NGOs, but also going from the other side as well, for smaller NGOs and social enterprises, to make sure that and to demonstrate, as you say, value. If you value that, you can end up getting more money. So, I mean, I don't know the answer. I think it's about promoting at both ends of the world, at both ends of the scale, both with the individual NGOs and explaining to them and showing them what adding that kind of professional input can do for you and can do to tell your story, but also at the other end of the scale with the funders and advocating them to allow that kind of space in their funding. The only other thing I'll say is and one of the things I think Amy has done amazingly and can do, because you're in a bank that has a brand, is bringing in celebrities, doing things in shopping malls. And I think another challenge for us in the social sector, social impact type world, is it often just operates on the margins and fails to influence the mainstream quite a lot, fails to influence bigger institutions, the general public, and being able to have partnerships with banks like DBS and show that story in a more public way. I think we buy ourselves profiles. So I think it's a complicated picture of all of these things, but it's nice to know that DBS is doing this in a really creative way, because then you can go to a bank in Europe or Asia, other places in Asia or the US, and show what DBS is doing and how important it is.
So we actually have a funder here. Maybe that makes a little bit different. But definitely, how do you actually drive this, Amy? Because obviously, I also talked to your CEO, and I really see this purpose thing comes up so many times in your project name and it's in the pillars and so on. And definitely, we respect. Definitely, this is a very interesting bank, putting the people first and drive the things, not just numbers for money. But definitely, but that's also very, very interesting where you guys are actually taking it one more step. Actually, in social innovation or even social work, this actually is called advocacy. Yeah. And advocacy, it's actually sometimes the first thing that you actually do. In business, this is actually called branding. And branding really also is very, very important. Branding is not how you Photoshop things. Branding is how you actually take all your value, cook something really good, and then share it with people, so that people get a feel of what we really do. And then obviously having a good chef would actually help us do the whole process. So I really see that you guys are very advanced also in that model, where really driving it, and by telling story, by having professional really do it, that would really help.
Yeah, I must say I'm very lucky because, my CEO is really into this. He is one of the biggest driving force behind it. And you know that, when the big boss is behind this, it makes our job, a lot easier, yeah. Right? So I must say I'm very fortunate, to be able to join an organization like DBS. And I feel that, right? So not only DBS does this, it's not enough, right? So I really want to be able to, using some of the examples, that we do, is to influence and inspire a lot more other big organizations. If all big organizations can, share the same vision in helping to push this, then, the force, would be bigger, right? So again, budget is always, challenging, but then I guess if we can get more people on the ship, right? If everybody can contribute a little, yeah. Then, our pie will be
I fully
bigger.
agree. Yeah. Actually, my belief is in all my years to working on social project, I actually got to start work with, very lucky that we actually start work with quite a few zeros in my projects. And then we start pushing it even more and even more. And if your mission is right, if you communicate right, people come and help you. In Chinese, there's a saying, 得道多助 from Mangzi, where you actually do something right and then do it so right in the sense that people will say, where can I help? Where can I sign the check? Where I don't have money, where do I come and actually help you move things and all the things and so on. And I think that's so important, where that story thing, obviously done the professional way, would actually help the process. And in this sense, that's a true leader, a corporate leader, we're seeing that the share common value from the sense, this is what we do, this is how we tell the story and really driving it.
And also one thing is beyond the budget. Budget is important, but then, partnership is very important too, being able to find the right partners, with the like-minded partners.
You told me that you were bringing in some of your clients and partners and even your employees to
even the agency, right? I mean, we never thought that they would be inspired, right? But then just I think with the right mindset, the right mission, I'm sure that the like-minded people will somehow come together. I feel that we really need an ecosystem. I mean, not only one organization can never, drive this, right? So I guess, being able to build that, ecosystem, being able to inspire the like-minded partners together is utmost important.
Yeah. You bring me to this very important point, because that's exactly why we have this section. We actually were looking into action that we want to drive, and so that in our community, maybe starting from Hong Kong and then really driving to our neighbors, so that we can actually tell better stories, that we are doing good. And then even though we have been focusing on the bad news for too long, so can we actually do some good news? I was actually talking to some of the investigative journalists. We almost don't have any channels for them to actually do anything now, but they come to me and say they do a lot of documentaries. And the documentaries, sometimes they can focus on how sad the stories are, but they can also show appreciation in different things and so on. One of the things that I have done, it's one of the things that actually changed my life. It's exactly 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago, I joined RTHK for a show, Kung Fu Yung Dai Zhok Jin. And that's the first reality show in Hong Kong. And through the process, obviously, it's still a primary school education tool. So when I go to primary school, people say, "Oh, I remember seeing you online. You're fighting those moksat and things and so on." So that's my story. But that really changed my life. And being able to be there, tell the story, and it's actually real. So that's why when you shoot all these champions or heroes doing things, then when we see them in the street working on their stuff, we actually just amplify their story, and then so that more people will know. And that experience changed people. And I think that's very, very important. Let's throw the idea out, and then how should we start in Hong Kong? Because that's one thing that Rebecca is tasking me to do, is really to starting to look into how to build this knowledge hub in Hong Kong, from Europe, from DBS funding, and then for everybody else. That's something that we want to start looking into. We understand this is important. There are different important things, but this is something that we have been advocating for long, and it's really worth doing. So any idea, throw some ideas out, and then what do you think? Louis? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my first idea and my suggestion is try things.
Try it.
Try, innovate. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work. This is what we do all the time. Experiment, enjoy, and have fun with things. It's okay if things don't work.
Be entrepreneurial, huh? Yeah. I really like your saying earlier that you like to do things that you haven't done before, huh? So that's actually very, very interesting.
You never do again. But that's okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and maybe, one idea is not all storytelling needs to be done, professionally, right? Sure. It could be user-generated.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody has a mobile phone. Everybody can do videos,
and post it on the same IG and tag it.
Exactly, exactly. If we can create this movement on encouraging and empowering, people to share their own stories, it could be professionally done, or it could be, through the phone, and just have people to have that mentality, shift that mentality on doing more storytelling and sharing it. Right?
I think so. Even let's say do an IG channel, just do poems.
Yeah.
On a particular minority needs in the city, and something like that. So I think that would be something that would be very, very powerful also, that we can drive. Okay, let's open up a little bit so that let's see if people are asking questions and so on. Can you actually show this, the Milo on? I would like to explain a little bit also. Okay, for all my talks and all my class, actually, we actually have a team here that Aki and William have been actually working together to actually create a visual canvas of what we just talked about. We'll share the link with you afterwards. And that's also important because even though we have the video here, we also want to share so that some of the things you can go and check, and some of the link that we have seen that they're mentioned is actually there. So it's actually beyond just this section, and we have ongoing sections. But let's open up a little bit and see if anybody have any questions or any idea that we can drive actions. One of the things that we really want to see in SES is actually, we talk, but we really want to, we collect all the good news and actually come in and share. But also we would like to actually drive for action. So anybody who might have some idea, some questions that you would like to ask our speakers here? Anybody? Any idea? Anything that might have touched you before? Any stories that you have gone through that might be interesting? Yeah, please.
Hello. So thank you so much for your sharing. That was very insightful. My question will be surrounding regarding storytelling. Obviously, there are stories that are worth telling, but sometimes regarding stigmatization in Hong Kong, perhaps around mental health or some things that are less discussed about, it's very difficult to facilitate those kind of conversations, or perhaps the people who are involved, they might not be as open in sharing their experiences. Is there a way or a method that you would bring about having these kind of conversations and letting these people feel more open about sharing their experiences? Thank you.
Very good point. Louis, can you hear? I don't see, is she connected? No, can you hear the question?
Yes, I heard that.
The danger of stigmatization and potentially actually telling the wrong story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, at the heart of all of this work, as I said earlier on, is people, and working with people means you need to build trust. And I think if you have trust and a relationship with people, it makes it easier to do this. we wouldn't do any of this work without building a relationship with people, kind of using them, stigmatizing them. It has to be a two-way exchange, and it has to add value to both parties. Any kind of experience that only adds value to us, we would never do. Any kind of experience where we're not in dialogue with the people who we're working with, who feel completely supported, completely well communicated with, who understand everything about the process, we would never do, from, you know, inviting someone to an event or doing a film with them or whatever. So it's way more than consent for us. It's trust. And I think learning how to build trust across countries and cultures is a very specific thing, and a really big a skill and an asset that I have with my team in my organization. So we're people driven, we're people led, we're trust-based, and it has to be a mutual value exchange.
Absolutely agree.
Very important, huh?
Yeah, and I think, you know, the sensitivity, right?
Yeah.
Being sensitive, you know, when you work with your partners, you know, being respectful, and that's the fundamentals on how you build that trust.
Definitely. I think the key, very good question, is that sometimes these become consuming poverty, 消費貧窮, that you actually just go because you feel high. You like seeing the story. And sometimes this is intrusion in other people's life. Sometimes, obviously, there are also privacy issues. I think all these, I think what we're talking about is actually, obviously, with a lot of respect, but definitely need to done it professionally. The interesting thing is advocacy, it's actually a very fine line. You can be only focusing on the bad things and force the government to do something, or force the donor to do something, or tell people that there are major problems, that it's only Muksat in some sort of boat. That may be something that at the end of the day people remember, but that's actually true if you're just shooting the video. But how do you tell the story is actually very important. So it's not just a picture; it's how you actually come up with the idea and actually drive that. And I think that actually needs to be done. I also teach in a few universities communication school. And I think the communication schools should also look into these things. How do you actually tell the story? There's a new term recently that comes out called mockumentary, documentary, but mocking it. It's actually interesting. I'm not sure if you have seen it on Netflix and quite a few of the global TV channels. There are all these videos, that documentary that actually have all these people. There's one that actually have Mark Zuckerberg in there and telling you all these things that he don't know what he is doing. But then there's the same thing. It actually shows that, oh, he might be doing completely different. So there are these investigative journalists doing the thing and actually shooting very, very good news piece. But also in this sense, when we're talking to the journalism people, this actually is a new area that they start looking into. So this can either, it's a mix of journalism and also a mix of cinematography and also social. So it's actually covering multiple angles, and also online, PR, branding experts, and so on. So I think that's something definitely we should be careful of. But hopefully we actually start doing, have some good example, share the good example, share how it's done, make this a discipline so that we can do more of those. And I think that's very good point. Other people, any other questions? Yeah, please. Am I running out of time?
Thank you. I just wonder what's the value of words moving forward, like written piece? Because I think the examples that you guys have shown around videos or photography, and obviously I think that's the trend because of social media. What's your thoughts, Amy?
Well, I think it's just so happened that, you know, the examples I showed today is video. We do believe in the power of words. Actually, we have a website. We call it Live More Site, Live Larger Than Life. Nice. And we actually, you know, have a lot of these stories being written, you know, in like a story format, written story, and all consolidated, you know, in our website. And what we want to do is like we tell those stories in social media as well. And, you know, social media, you know, people do not consume, you know, a long kind of, you know, paragraphs, right? So, you know, we tell the story in a succinct way in social media and drive traffic and interest, you know, to our website to learn about more other stories as well. So definitely, you know, the power of words still valid, and we do, you know, put in resources and effort behind, you know, to use the words to tell story to move people. Yes, we do.
Definitely. Copywriting, it's very important. For all the classes that we do a lot of experiential learning. But through the experience, we actually ask the student to actually write it down. And then it's very important. This is from a Harvard research that we are talking about the right brain, which is the sense. So it covers a lot of things about related to the sense of how we feel things. It also covers things related to now. So the right brain focus on that. The left brain, we were thinking about logic, and actually language is part of logic. Language is actually one of the highest logic. So being able to articulate, you get the feel and articulate it right. And you're aware of the things and explain it. That really, first thing, help you to remember. And the impact will be much longer. So when you try to learn something, you go there, you get a feel, and then there's a lesson I want to learn. I want to do something. You better write it down, because in 3 days you only have 5% left. So if you write it down and actually put that on, and that obviously that can also be a picture. Some people are more spatial and graphic and image driven, but for most people, just writing it down in the language that you can do. You can also have a video shooting yourself. At least that's something that really helps you put it down. Put it in the logic part, and then that's become a snapshot, either a picture or text. And the text itself really helps you. And one of the things that we do in the class in the university is actually we do reflection of reflections. So after I've done 5 of these, what does resilience mean to me? After I see all these cases, what does social innovation actually mean? It's not a book definition. It's actually going through the story. You'll be able to actually see that. And I think that's actually very, very powerful also. So it's a mixture of these things. So definitely not just image, but we're using image as a demo. But text, it's very important. Whatever language you're doing, just feel good, right? About my only example is very simple. Don't just repeat what you'd see. It's more like, what does that mean to you? And that reflection actually changed. And to working with so many university students right now, that really helps them. I teach in this University of Science and Technology. We do reflection every time we have experience, almost every week. And that's very important to really get back in touch with the real thing. So that's something good. Okay, last sentence. We're running out of time. Louise, thanks for joining us. But any recommendation? Definitely, we will grab you later on to actually work with you on things. You are so creative.
Yeah, no, my only final sentence, I have another meeting now, so I have to go. But my only final sentence is to your point on the written word is I think the written word is so important. I think all of these mediums are important. I think what we have to remember is the most important thing is purpose and why you're doing it. When you're making a video or using that kind of creative, just think about why you're doing it, and you're not doing it just for yourself. Think about your audience, your purpose. Same with writing. Written word is beautiful, but volume does not mean it's good. We all use far too many words. They're not very interesting. No one wants to read them, but we all think it's great to just write it down anyway. Think about what we're writing, how we're writing, the style of what we're writing, who's going to read it. So purpose and audience, I think, is number one. Doesn't matter what the tool is, but just think about those things.
Very good. Amy.
Well, there's really no a magic formula to storytelling. Just use your creativity and be authentic.
Be authentic. That's very, very important. Really be there, really go through the process, and what touch people really touch people. I think that's also very, very important. So thank you very much for coming. Louise, thanks for joining us. I understand you were sick. Get well soon.
Get well soon.
Yeah, and then bless UK with all the problems, the pandemic still going around. Get well, all of you. Get well soon. Yeah. And then thanks for joining us for this section. So let's give everybody a good hand.
Thank you.
And just a short advertising for my tomorrow section. Tomorrow section, this is the right brain. I promise. I'm normally not a right brain person. I'm actually tomorrow we will talk about data for good. So we'll explore how data would change the whole landscape. So driving, obviously, storytelling is very, very much the soft side, but then all the numbers, all the big data, how to drive it, and so on. Tomorrow we have a government from Development Bureau joining us, and also we have the CEO of Jockey Cup charity to actually join us also. So it's a very interesting thing that we actually look into how data would actually help us. That's 1:45 tomorrow. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So this link we will also share. So if you're interested, you can actually go and actually check out the mirror, the image that we have. Thank you very much. Thank you.